this first match right now.
All right, so it is going to be in the Grand Arena as always. We got Venruki, we got Snutz, we got Cdew. They're going to be going up against Dota, Mitch, and Elite. And I'm really curious to see what kind of strategies these two teams are going to be coming out with. You know, I think that as far as, you know, Mitch Jones and Dota, I think they're going to be saying train the blue. I really think that they're going to be looking at trying to take down Cdew. Obviously, you know, anyone is a viable target here on both sides because, you know, the amount of damage you can put out, but it's just a matter of how much do you want to commit to each target, how long do you want to spend on it, because if you're kind of just going to a Warlock every once in a while and they have their heals up every time, it's not really worthwhile. So unless you're really going to commit to a Warlock, I don't think that's going to happen. And the same token, you know, you can go on that pally, but Divine Protection is up a lot and it can be used during those stuns. So that's another thing you have to really commit if you're going to go for it.
Looks like I do believe both gateways landed. Oh, we might have had an interrupt on one of the gateways so far. No, it looks like we do have two up. All right, so straight from the start, Venruki looks like he is going to try to spread a little bit of damage out, you know, tossing out some polys. Doesn't look like that landed, though. Demon Soul already coming out from Dota right here, with Snutz not quite using it yet.
Yeah, and I think if you look at Mitch Jones, he's itching to go attack that Shaman, dude. He has five icicles. There's a Blazing Speed. He's just going to blink right at Cdew. Yep, here it comes. They're going to be going on the blue, but he gets MCS, he gets howled right on that. They know that's the strategy. They know that Mitch Jones playstyle. And Mitch did use his icicles, and he's going to have to be forced into a block. So, you know, making use of that over-aggression that Mitch Jones sometimes falls prey to. You know, he does pop the Alter Time. He's trying to get this damage out anyway, but Dota's taking a lot of damage. And I mean, Mitch definitely overextended there, and it's going to cost him a block, and they really got nothing from it. You know, Cdew was able to position himself well, and Snutz and Venruki just completely shut that down.
Yeah, Cdew, absolute full life, got deeped and sheeped right there. Snutz taking a little damage, you know, peeking out and trying to get a lot of those dots out. But look at the damage onto Venruki all of a sudden. You know, Mitch pushed up once he felt he was in a fine position and his healer could top him off. And lots of damage onto Snutz and Venruki, so that was a good momentum shift by the boys of Rag.
Definitely was, but I mean, you know, they didn't get the blocks. That is key that Venruki was able to hold on to that. But we'll have to see, you know, when can they get back to Cdew? And I really think that is what they're going to want to do. But, you know, maybe feeling they're not going to be able to do it after the kind of how that first swap went. And Elite going to be deeped into a full sheep. Mitch Jones could be in some trouble here. We could see that second ice ball coming up, but no, the Hellstone actually going to crit there for me. His temporal up as well. He's going to be fine. Venruki, though, being pushed back a bit, and actually the spread pressure coming out more heavily from the boys are back right now. Cdew, the one starting to fall a little bit behind. You can see him spam dispelling out those UAs, though. Does catch the UA dispel on himself, and, you know, he's rotting down a little bit, but as a result, there's not really any dots out right now from Dota.
Yeah, he's doing a great job of keeping everyone dispelled, you know, every 8 seconds trying to take them off. But that does mean that his team is starting to fall behind with all those silences. Plus himself, you know, he's been sitting with that gigantic heal on himself and choosing not to use it whatsoever, as Venruki is getting dangerously low at this point. You know, there we go. Now he's going to have to block with Cdew taking that HOJ with the Windwalk Totem down also. You know, Snutz trying to put out a lot of pressure, but constantly getting CC'd. It looks like there isn't much offensive pressure going out as they do score a kill onto Mitch's Water Elemental.
Yeah, and I mean, Venruki's going to get taken down here pretty shortly as well. It's just very hard, and it's hard enough for the healers to heal through the damage on the 3 players, let alone that Water Ellie as well. So, you know, most of the time it's just going to get ignored. And when you see the defreeze comes out on Cdew, dots are up as well, but Mitch just not able to connect with that. Couldn't really get any additional damage out. Snutz does have his Demon Soul popped right now. No trinket up for him, but still, the dots are going to be, you know, hitting pretty hard here. And we do see that, you know, Elite had to bubble somewhere in the midst of that. I'm not really sure how I missed that, but, you know, he is on 4 Barons, so he must have bubbled or bopped himself or something. But Cdew going to get coiled up and actually taking quite a lot of damage here. He does pull back behind the pillar, though, going to be just fine. Dispels those dots off as well, and you see the sacrifice coming out on Mitch. A lot of damage going to be coming out on him, and that may break the fear, but it looks like it did get purged off there by Cdew, or perhaps spell stolen by Venruki, and Elite did end up having to sit through that. So, you know, they have started to stabilize, but, you know, really surprisingly, Elite is actually the one way ahead of mana. Well, maybe not that surprisingly, but so we're just going to have to see if the 3 Amigos can really get enough CC on him to kind of take him out, because it looks like, you know, Cdew is the one that's really behind on mana, and Venruki is probably going to have to use a second block here. Does blink away out of the end of that deep freeze, but got very low. That was a close one, and Cdew going to be put into a full sheep.
Mitch is going to Blazing Speed in to stay connected to Venruki, but they're going to turn it around on Mitch Jones right away. He might have gone way too offensive on this. The ring is starting to be popped. There we go. He actually gets the ring down, which is going to be on to Cdew, as that does break right away. That was odd.
Super DR'd. I mean, he already had sheeped him once, and then he sheeped and rung same time, so it was triple DR, unfortunately, for him. But he's going to pull back, and Venruki taking a lot of pressure here. Snutz rotting down as well. The Ascendant has been popped here by Cdew. He wants to get everyone top back off. He wants to, kind of just get them offensive right now. We do see that the Forbearance has expired onto Elite. Dota getting very, very low there. Has to pop his healing cooldowns. Uses his Trinket as well. Not quite sure what he did Trinket, but he wanted to get back behind the pillar, and the CS going to land onto Mitch. Going to be shutting down that sheep there by Venruki. Venruki feared up very briefly, but that's going to break 2 of the dots, and now the sheep does come in on Elite. Elite does have no Trinket, but he did use his Guardian as well, so he should be pretty much out of those cooldowns as far as the CC breakers, and this is where 3 Amigos could really start to take advantage. I mean, Cdew going to be able to get out of those fears with the Tremor, going to be able to shut down a lot more of the sheeps with shocks and the grounding, so this is where they should start to take advantage.
You can see Elite using that speed. I thought he was going to go and push up for a stun, but he wasn't able to. Dota is in the deep right now, taking all of that damage while standing in the orb. Elite having to bubble right there with Divine Favor tossed up also. So you can definitely tell that he is being pressured as Venruki takes a lot of damage. Those Demon's Soul dots are still up on both targets, as they probably will start to fade. Cdew's doing a great job of trying to keep his team completely clean. He is going to have some pauses in the action due to those silences, but look at that, dots right back up onto Snutz.
Yeah, and Snutz is actually taking a ton of damage here, down below 300k HP, and Elite does nicely sacrifice that poly. Good job by him getting that sacrifice up in time onto Dota to break that polymorph immediately. We do see that Cdew going to be caught into a sheep as well, and Elite, as we can see with that second bubble, he is playing that reduced cooldown on the Divine Shield talent, which is I think very intelligent in this matchup, and he's doing a great job so far. He's going to get Shadow Fury on the Blinding Light. Can Snutz follow up with the Fear? Not quite able to, as he's going to get CS there by Mitch, and Elite's just going to gate away. This is the positioning that he needs. He needs to be far, far away, and he's going to be able to accomplish that. Dota taking some damage, does actually use the sprint port there just to be able to kind of get back across the map and get over with Elite.
All right, now you can see Elite is starting to try to catch up now that his team is fine. See him toss out a couple of those dispels and eat the UA dispel, but he does get full sheeped right here. Going to sit it because he doesn't have a block available, or a Trinket available right now. Mitch Jones taking a lot of damage, blazing speed and blink to try to get back to his healer. Still down to half health right now, but was able to dispel agony off of himself, stop a little bit of damage, but of course both Dota and Mitch Jones are definite targets for the enemy team. Yeah,
and I mean, Elite had to use the Trinket immediately as it came up to break that fear, and this is where it starts to get tough. The bubble was down, he had to Trinket there as the CC follow-up was there, and I mean, he's way behind now. Aura Mastery has to go out, the Divine Light does land, but Mitch Jones down to about half HP, Dota taking some pressure as well, and they just need to push in now. 3 Amigos needs to be aggressive, get the CC out before the bubble comes back up if it hasn't already with that reduced cooldown, and really just constantly try to get that CC chain on them. They have the fear now, can they follow it up? The Shadow Fear comes in, is there going to be a sheep? It looks like there will perhaps be a refear. Yeah, and Dota and Mitch Jones both so low. The block has come out, but Dota, he uses those heals, but the full sheep now onto Elite, and this could be it for Dota if they can connect to him. Venruki is there doing the damage right now. He's going to get MCS on his Trinket, though. He's going to be refeared. Looks like Dota may be able to survive for now. The MCS comes in onto Elite, but Mitch Jones very, very low, and he's going to get feared off. 100k HP on both, and Elite struggling. He's going to get locked on that fast Divine Light, and I think that's going to be it. Mitch Jones down to 70k HP. Could he possibly survive? 50k HP. Catches a flash of light. The Guardian is up, and he may be able to recover. He just needs to get a couple heals off here. And it looks like he will be able to. The sheep comes in, but it is DR'd very heavily. The sacrifice was used on it as well to break that DR'd sheep. And wow, just great job by Elite.
Yeah, that sack was incredible. That is a great play right there. Having those huge heals coming out, knowing that he is going to be CC'd completely, that half poly just breaking instantly. But Cdew, even when his team is so far ahead, he's making sure that they stay ahead as he is trying to dispel all the dots off of his team.
Yeah, and the deep freeze comes in onto Elite. Mitch Jones may just go down 70k HP into the ice block. We do see that there was that one deep freeze was really all it took with that damage coming out on the Mitch Jones, and Dota could be in some trouble as well. He has the life tap, but doesn't really have the comfort to do it right now, and he has had no healing cooldowns either. Mitch Jones going to get feared off that. The UA spell caught by Elite. Can they follow this up at all? Can Snutz perhaps get in there and get that fear off onto him that he wants to get? You have full dots out on the Mitch Jones. Dota going to be feared up now, and we see Snutz starting to push in. He really wants to get in there. He really wants to get in on top of Elite, but they're going to try to turn the pressure around onto Snutz. They're going to try to make him pay for getting in that aggressive. The Hodge comes out, the orb goes out. We do see that the heals are going to be popped immediately by Snutz just as he got crit healed by Cdew, so it turned out he didn't need them, but it's hard to call that. And Venruki taking down about half HP, 150,000, 80,000 HP. Venruki into the ice block. The turnaround damage there from Mitch Jones was huge, but Mitch Jones, I'm not sure he has another ice block available right now, and he is under a lot of pressure, but a massive heal coming at it from Elite, and he had to use his bubble in that exchange. His trinket is back up though.
That was a risky play by Snutz. He trinketed a fear so he could stay offensive, and then they immediately recognized that this was going on as Mitch is standing still right now.
Yeah. I think Mitch is offline, I do believe. We'll see. I think he had disconnect problems yesterday too, but he was able to get back online and have no more problems. So hopefully he's going to be able to get back on here pretty quickly.
Yeah, that momentum shift was it was great, because the second that Snutz obviously had to use his healing cooldowns to stay alive right there. But once Cdew was able to get out of that CC and start tossing heals out, the team immediately switched it back onto Mitch Jones, who was running away at that point, and down to about a third. So, could have been rolling into the favor of the boys are back.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely can go both ways, and it's like the momentum shifts can be huge, just because the amount of bursts that these two teams can put out is massive. Mages with mastery, they both have mastery. One from the Paladin buff, one from the Shaman passive totem. Just makes them do an incredible amount of damage, and the mages going on to each other, it's like full dots plus ice lances coming out for they can be well over 100k and everything. It's like you can dip down pretty quick, so have to be very, very careful in these situations. And I mean, Elite is doing a great job surviving until his cooldowns came back up. There was that one time where I really thought that Mitch Jones was going to go down. Elite got locked out on a fast cast, and Mitch went down to about 70k, but was able to survive. With that Guardian coming out and the sacrifice on the poly was really all that kept him up. Yeah,
Mitch Jones, his snap was down at that point too, and didn't have very many options at that point. Even his alter time, short cooldown, but do believe he just used that before that. I think the boys are back. We're in trouble at that point. We'll have to see if they can handle it once everyone comes back online and Mitch is able to play again. Hopefully he can reconnect any minute.
Yeah, I'm really hoping he can get back in. But we have to remember yesterday, he did DC in the first game of a series yesterday, and then they were able to come back and win 2 in a row and actually take that series and then qualify into the main tournament as a result of that. So, even if he can't get back online, he's not going to be out of it just yet. But definitely not a situation you want to see happen.
It's a good series, though. I like the play out of both teams. Is just they're playing very offensive. You can see both Snutz and Mitch choosing to use offensive trinkets to stay in the action. Both of them almost paid for it. He turned a bit. Could he be back?
I don't know, man. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if he's back, or sometimes your character just kind of wigs out a little bit. Yeah. But we'll find out. I mean, if he's not back on pretty soon, I think his character's going to be zoning out of the arena. And hopefully it's not going to be a consistent problem. So we are going to give him 30 more seconds to see if he can get back online. And if he can't, then it is going to be a first point to 3 Amigos.
Yeah, and it's it's unfortunate when this happens, but online tournaments, it's part of your team has to be able to ensure that you have stable connections and everything like that. It's really on yourselves to do it. Now, it's funny, both all members of the team are targeting Mitch Jones right now. They are definitely waiting for him to come back so they can finish this. I bet they are. I mean, this was an exciting match. You have to be, even as a player, the close matches are, they're fun matches to play.
Yeah, I mean, they are stressful, but they're also a lot of fun, and I think that is going to be the call is being made by the admins. Well, and he just zoned out anyway, so it doesn't even matter. Mitch not going to be able to get back, and that is going to mean the first point goes to 3 Amigos, and they're going to be 1 point away from eliminating the boys are back.
Yeah, we're going to wait a couple seconds. We're going to keep on talking, do some analysis while Mitch Jones tries to reconnect. So.
Yeah, so I mean, the game went pretty much how I thought it was going to. Elite handling it, I think, a little bit better than I expected. Obviously I expected him to do very well, but he did a fantastic job, I think.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think it's really going to come down a lot to how he plays, how much CC he's going to be able to avoid. Because once you get caught in one CC as a Paladin, you're pretty much guaranteed to get caught in another, and that's where the trouble kind of starts to happen. It gets harder and harder because, you know, when you have that perfect positioning, you get caught into something, then, you know, you're not moving anymore, you can't LOS anymore, you can't stay away anymore. So that's when it starts to chain, and that's when it starts to get a little bit out of control for that Paladin. So I think if Elite can stay away, that's going to be the key. And I mean, if you look at the time CC'd, you know, I have the scoreboard in front of me, and it actually shows, you know, Elite was actually CC'd significantly less than Cdew or Snutz. You know, and their team in general was CC'd less. So, you know, Elite was doing a really good job with the positioning and stuff. You know, Cdew CC'd 25 times, Elite only 18. So, you know, it shows a pretty damn good job. Obviously, part of that is, you know, Cdew sometimes is going to be a bit more aggressive, knowing that he has a tremor and stuff to fall back on. But still, you know, Elite positions himself very, very well, and just in general, did a great job.
He really did, and you know, a lot of those matches felt like they went on longer than I would have expected, especially with how fast the damage was at times. You know, obviously, cooldowns definitely mattered and stuff, but you know, both healers did a great job of trying to keep up with the dots. You know, obviously we saw Cdew nonstop dispelling turn that entire time, especially when he knew that those Demon Soul dots were going to be out on his team.
Yeah, and I mean, one of the things that pretty much every good player with a decurse does now is realizing like the strength of Warlocks, which shifted so much from Corruption and UA last expansion to Agony this expansion, which makes them very susceptible to classes with decurse and stuff. So, you know, mages, because it could be up to like 35, sometimes even 40% of your damage, just because keeping that 10 stack Agony stack is huge. So, you know, like hybrids and mages, especially in this example, are going to be constantly decursing that. You know, so Venruki is going to be constantly decursing that 10 stack Agony off himself, off his teammates, and Cdew is going to be constantly removing those 10 stack Agonies as well as the full clear of dots. So, you know, it definitely reduces so much damage. So even though it kind of looks a little bit scary sometimes when he dispels UA and he's silenced and his team is a little bit lower, the Agony is not going to be stacked up. The consistent damage is much, much lower. So in the long run, it's a lot easier to heal through it. And that's one of the things that is important to keep in mind. You know, if you're playing a shaman or if you're playing one of these other classes and trying to improve, that's definitely something you can do.
Yeah, watch for those Agonies. You know, the 10 stack does take a while to stack up. Obviously, when you soul swap or soul burn, soul swap, you have a free 10 stack at that point. You know.
Well, so you start at 1 unless you're soul swapping. With soul burn, unless you already have a 10 up, then you can soul swap that around, and you can do that. But you know, it is so much more damage. So yeah, removing that at the 10 stack is so much more important, and these players definitely are paying attention to those little details.
Yeah, and it's every little thing you can do, especially in these tournament situations when, if you look at, historically, even when you look at win-loss ratios on the ladder, there's nobody that's just like 100-0, you know, on the ladder. You know, there are definitely matches that challenge you no matter where you are in the ladder. And so when it comes down to teams that are this amazing, that, you know, it's possible that these matches could have been split 50-50. So every little thing that you do during these matches, like, you know, you look up the whole string of globals of all the globals that you spent during the match, you know, and you mess up on one of those, it can snowball.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, I think that one of the things that new players in all games, really, I've seen this across all games that I've, you know, when I played StarCraft and stuff, and when I played WoW, and really all games, people who are trying to get better, a lot of times kind of like lose sight of the big picture, and they see someone do some crazy play, and they're like that's how you get good. You have to be able to, you know, like friggin' vanish the death coil and then sap that guy and kick that guy out of stealth and then redirect kidney him and blind him, and that's how you get high rated. And it's actually not. You know, just minimizing mistakes, being consistent is actually how you get good at games, you know, and it's things like this. It's like, it's not hard to decurse. It's not really hard to press your macro every 10 seconds or whatever. But the fact that they add all these little things into their play and they consistently do them, and they consistently use their defenses at the right time, they consistently LOS the abilities and so on and so forth. Every little thing that you add in and improve on is going to increase your rating. So for people who are looking to improve, you know, you have to remember it's the little things. It's not these fancy plays. I mean, the fancy plays maybe are going to separate people at the like absolute world elite level where everyone is already doing everything else perfectly. But you know, when you're trying to improve and climb up the ladder, that's really what you need to focus on. And even things like, one of the things I always tell people is learning all the buffs. If you know all the buff icons and you know what they mean, that makes such a big difference. You know, knowing when someone pops Avatar just by seeing the buff on them, and knowing that you have to be careful when they pop Recklessness and all these things and what they all mean. So, you know, learning all those buff icons and things like that, you know, it's a game knowledge and consistency.
You know, something that is actually kind of funny with something I didn't expect, that even when we started to do Arena, and even when like early PvP and all throughout the expansions, is that the players kind of put less emphasis on like knowing your PvE rotation and knowing that if I am free and I have as much time as I want in the world, what can I do to maximize my damage? And it's incredible that there are sometimes that these PvE all-stars, show up and they just, damage meter-wise, they're just like way higher.
Yeah.
Like we've seen some DKs show up that used to be like, world-class PvEers, and just, it's crazy. You play against them, and it's astounding the damage difference. Yeah. And that because they know exactly what button to press in the order of the rotation. Not like, okay, what's my opening rotation? What's my rotation 20 seconds later when my runes are all spent? What do I do at that moment? And then like damage meter wise, pressure, everything is so different. Yep. So that's one of the things. If you're trying to get into arena, it might be you're picking up a new class. Go and do some research on like how to PvE on your class.
Yeah. Looks like Mitch Jones has reconnected, and we're getting right back into the match right now.
And I mean, just even with Warlocks, one of the things that, if you ever PvE on a Affliction Warlock, you will instantly realize the importance of dot snapshot. Yeah. Reapplying dots on trinkets is so much of a big deal. It's like, and so it's like now, anytime you see Warlocks popping, reapplying dots without that or overwriting those dots, you realize how big of a difference it makes. But anyway, it looks like Venruki wants to start off very aggressively here. Both mages just mirror image of each other, just blinking forward, pet novaing each other. Neither one going to let their Warlock be stopped, and the gateways are stacked on top of each other. Not sure who I would say that advantage is, but maybe advantages a little bit to the boys are back if they're going to be trying to get onto Cdew. Whoever is going to be the aggressor is going to want that gateway planted, firmly on the face of the other team. But Snutz going to leave the game, so it must have been some sort of issue for him.
Yep, and down goes Venruki.
Down goes Venruki. That'll do it. But
shout out to Igo.
Yeah.
I mean, the gateway positioning it's pretty interesting. You try to maximize your gateway potential when they're stacked on each other. That's kind of rough. As a Warlock, is that something where if you see a Warlock kind of chasing your gateway, do you try to replace it when you can, knowing that you could be chased, such as your Shaman?
It all just depends on the matchup. There's matchups where, I remember playing at the World Championships, BWC or whatever, right? And we were playing against MLS in a shadow play. We were running scared most of the game, right? we were a little scared rats, man. So it would be like they'd put their gateway on ours, and then I'd be running away trying to get a gateway away from it the whole time, because there are certain matchups where you literally can't survive if they're able to chase through. And so it just depends if you're the aggressor in the matchup, if you want to play like an all-in play style, or simply put your comp as better on the offensive, then you want to have it on their gateway to be able to constantly chase them down. Whereas if you're kind of stuck more on the defensive, you want to be able to gate across the map and have them have to kind of like walk after you, But it's like if you're going on the other team's Shaman, when they gateway, you just click your gateway and it's right on top of them. It doesn't do anything for them anymore. And in fact, it can honestly hurt them sometimes because you're damaged still while you're in the air and you're not actually being able to do anything. Yep. So it just really depends on the matchup, and it depends also sometimes on the play style. So, I think if the boys are back are trying to go on to Cdew, then you want to gate on the gate constantly. And if they start seeing, if Snutz starts seeing that that's an issue, you're going to see him try to move the gateway and just try to have it separate and try to stop Dota from putting it back on theirs.
Yeah, it's definitely, I know a lot of players, I complain about gateway, like non-Warlock players, like, oh, that's so dumb and stuff. Yeah. But, it really does add that extra little element to your team, knowing that, okay, if we focus the healer and he's by the gateway, we know what he's going to do. We know he's going to get over there. So maybe you put your port down there, or make sure that, your blink's up so that you can chase him and stuff like that. It's all those little elements that add to the game that makes Arena so complicated. Yeah,
for sure. And with the gateway, some classes it's very strong against, some classes it's not so strong against. Warriors kind of have a gateway in any direction that also sprints them on a lower cooldown. Yeah. But so some classes it's like against the warrior, you gateway, it doesn't really do anything unless you can force them to burn their leap and everything. Whereas if you're fighting against a DK or something, it can be very strong if you have a max distance gateway, because they can't really do anything except waddle across the map at you. So it really depends what you're fighting, and it depends. But there's so many different ways you can use it. You can use it offensively, defensively, and it does add an interesting dimension to the game.
It's it's incredible how many Warlocks or how many people playing against Warlocks don't realize the Soulburn port. Yeah. It's just it's just one of those things that's how are they running so far away?
Right. Yeah. We got Venruki back, and we're heading right back into the match.
All right. So once again, it is 1-0 here for 3 Amigos on the back of that DC from Mitch Jones. It did happen yesterday, but hopefully, it didn't happen again after that. So hopefully it's going to be the same thing today. But the countdown has begun, and it is going to be their map choice. It's going to be Tolvaron, so they want to play on a giant map. And Snutz going to be throwing that gateway. Dota going to be doing the same thing as well. So the gateways are going to be stacked. It's the exact same opener. No big deal there. And both Warlocks, kind of just throwing those dots around, just kind of poking back and forth. And Snutz going to hold his Demon Soul for now, whereas Dota has used his. That
was last game too. Exact same thing. Dota immediately tossing out those Demon Soul dots, while Snutz chooses to wait a couple of globals as he did. There he goes. Now he's going to. It looks like right when his team was going offensive is when he was going to use the Demon Soul at that point.
Yeah, and look at Mitch Jones already taking a lot of damage here. Down to 100k, 80k HP. Ooh. Are you kidding me? That was so close to going down. And Cdew taking a little bit of damage himself, but is going to be able to get out of there. Mitch Jones getting the sacrifice there from Elite as he does come out of that ice block, knowing that he could be in a bit of trouble, and he's trying to retreat back across the map a little bit. Venruki, though, taking a ton of damage himself, and he's actually forcing the ice block. There was a sheep on Cdew, and Cdew, I guess they just didn't feel comfortable to survive that. And Venruki was still decently up on HP, but just did not want to risk anything, did not want to risk getting kind of chunked down and dying without that ice block.
Yeah, that could be a questionable play that might come back on them. As you see, pet health, this is an important part of a mage's rotation, having that on-demand fingers from the freeze. But look at Cdew still dispelling all those dots. He does catch that Howl of Terror, but he's doing a good job of keeping up on the dots. But Venruki taking a lot of damage right now. Looks like Hypothermia has faded, I do believe, from him, so he'll be all set if he has to use that second block, as he already has Cold Snap.
Yeah, and Mitch Jones kind of getting himself into a bit of a weird position. Elite got feared over there, and Mitch wanted to go over the pillar by him, but this means that both of them are not by their gateway. There's the blink forward. The Palm Sheep comes out from Venruki. They're going to deep freeze onto Dota. Dota could be in some trouble here. Is actually, I don't know, did he unbound? No, I guess it was just a DR deep or somehow, but it did not seem to last very long there. Venruki decides to just gate out of there, knowing that the damage is kind of over for now. Mitch Jones, though, getting pretty low, so maybe Venruki could have stayed in a little bit longer if Cdew could have kept him up, but Mitch Jones got pretty low. Dota got pretty low as well. But Venruki was forced back, and that allows Elite to just top everyone and break back off.
Yeah, and as you can see, when one team retreats, it means Elite can choose his positioning. Even though he's not near the gateway, which is kind of odd placement-wise, he definitely has the better LOS positioning at this point.
Yeah, and look at Mitch right now, down about 200k. He is taking a lot of damage there. Second Demon Soul has been popped here by Dota, as well as Snutz. They are going to be spreading those dots around here. Dota put into another deep freeze once again. They are going to be going hard onto him, and much of a pretty big change up, honestly, from the previous game. The Death Coil up in about a second there for Dota, so he could decide to try to go offensive onto Cdew. If they could get it deep into a coil, it could be pretty effective, but for now, not anything really happening with that, as it looks like they just want to continue to go onto Venruki, and I think that three Amigos are trying to capitalize on Dota being so aggressive. He's going to get CS there by Snutz. He's going to be feared off as well. It looks like it was a fake CS though, so good job there by Dota, baiting that out. But Elite is going to get caught into the fear by Snutz, and maybe something could happen here onto Mitch. But Mitch, pretty far away across the map, pulls back, gets the water rally back out, gets that Incanters up as well, and now he's going to go aggressive onto Venruki. The Shatter coming out onto Venruki. The Orb though comes out from him as well onto Dota. There's the Palm Sheep onto Elite. We see Dota taking quite a bit of damage, and Mitch still very low. Did get away, but he may be forcing the ice block. He is in the ice block, and at the same time, heals have to come out from Dota, and Dota may just die through them. 100k HP, wings pop by Elite. He's trying to get back to Mitch. Mitch comes out of the ice block. He has the ice block clip up, but I mean, he is running way away from his pally now. Yeah, Mitch is kind of making Elite just chase him at this point, and it's kind of exposing him to some CC, honestly, but it looks like they are going to be okay. They are going to get back over there, but now the Nova does land onto Elite.
Yeah, and so what led to that chain right there is when we were talking about Elite moving position, getting to that closer pillar, it actually put him in a bad position. He got Shadow Fury followed by Fear and had to trinket that. We do see a sack out on a Mitch before that Fear, so that was a great job again by Elite, but look at Venruki taking a bunch of damage, and Snutz. Fear onto Cdew, who's going to tremor that instantly, stun onto Snutz also. So this is, they start to look like they're bringing the momentum back, but Elite having to bubble right there too.
Yeah, and I mean, if they can get a good CC chain quickly before his PvP chain comes back up, they could possibly get a kill here, but I mean, it is almost up, so it's probably not going to happen. It's about 5 seconds until it is back up. We see the Hex, though. The Howl does come out, and Mitch Jones could be in some trouble. Could they force an Ice Block or anything here? He's deciding to sit through that. Yeah, Cdew getting pretty low as well, though, and Venruki pretty low.
He blinked out of the Link, too.
Oh, no, yeah, the Link went down. Snutz couldn't get in. No one got in, and so that Link was completely wasted. The Guardian is popped here by Elite. He's going to be able to top everyone back off. Did have to use his trinket, though, and the Hodge comes out onto Cdew. That's going to force the trinket from him, as he was getting, pretty aggressive. But Aura Mastery coming out from Elite as well. Cooldown's being blown everywhere. That's Guardian, that's Bubble, that's Trinket, that's Aura Mastery, that's Wings. Everything down for Elite. He has nothing left.
I hope that Three Amigos can realize this. They need to capitalize on the fact that the Paladin doesn't have anything up currently. I don't even think he has a sack available at this point, seeing that he's used 2 very recently. Venruki is going to start to get more offensive. Same with Snutz at this point, chasing the Water Elemental and Mitch Jones around those pillars. That great Shadow Fury followed by the Fear on top of it, tossing out a bunch of CC right now. Elite, though, going to choose to gateway pretty far away from his team, as he needs to reposition his LOS. However, he is near Cdew. Maybe that was a choice, but Mitch Jones.
Much trouble though. Yeah, Mitch down to 50k HP, catching some heals. And he had to avoid that howl from Snutz, but it looks like Mitch is offline once again, and definitely an unfortunate circumstance. But honestly, I mean, if you're Three Amigos at this point, I mean, if I was them, I don't even know if it's fair for them to wait, because even if Mitch gets back on, they had forced every single cooldown from the Paladin. He had nothing, and right now everything's ticking back up. He has literally, if you look at him right now, he has literally every single cooldown in the game being used, and as time goes on, everything's going to come back up for him, and then it's like all the time that he has spent kind of burning through those cooldowns is wasted. But I think the admins are making the call that it's just going to be another point for Three Amigos, which does mean it's unfortunately a 2-0 for the boys are back, so they're going to be the first team eliminated from